Have you ever considered what truly defines a wise man and makes him deeply valued within his community? In today's engaging video, we explore the ancient teachings of a 72-year-old woman from a quaint village in Asmir. She reveals profound perspectives on the true meaning of intimacy, sharing secrets that go far beyond mere physical connection, showing how such understanding can build bonds that endure for a lifetime. And that's only the beginning. We'll look at how a simple act of devotion can not only transform personal relationships, but also bring about positive changes in entire communities. These are not just stories, they are timeless lessons that could permanently alter how you view love and connection. Stay tuned to the end to discover how embracing this wisdom can enhance your own life. You'll gain valuable insights into fostering respect, nurturing deeper connections, and creating harmony in your relationships. Trust me, you won't want to miss the priceless lessons woven throughout this remarkable story. If you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing so and turning on the notification bell to stay updated with each new video. Your support means a lot, and if you find this video meaningful, please help spread these teachings by liking and sharing it. In the serene village of Ayr, surrounded by gentle hills and peaceful landscapes that seemed to stretch endlessly, lived a woman whose wisdom had touched many generations. Known as Madame Laura, she was a symbol of grace and quiet strength, a living embodiment of the beauty and depth that life brings with time. Her snow-white hair framed her weathered face softly, and she carried an air of both time and tranquility. Her eyes, still lively and bright, sparkled with the wisdom she had gathered over many years, like stars in the night sky, each glint containing a story, a lesson, a fragment of the wisdom she had gained through her long, eventful life. To the people of Asmir, Madame Laura was more than just a woman. She was a guide, a keeper of the village's soul. Her modest home, built of weathered stone and wood, stood at the edge of the village, surrounded by ancient trees that seemed to whisper with the wind, telling stories of times long past. Anyone who entered her presence felt a calming peace, as if time itself slowed down around her, with the soothing scent of burning cedar wafting through the air, bringing calm to those who sought her guidance. One cool autumn afternoon, a group of young people gathered outside Madame Laura's home, eager to gain the unique wisdom that only she could offer. They had heard many tales of her teachings, of the way she spoke with a depth that could reach into the soul, and they longed to experience her guidance firsthand. As the sun began to set, casting soft golden hues over the village, they approached her gate and knocked, anticipation building within them. Madame Laura welcomed them with a warm smile, her eyes crinkling at the corners as she ushered them inside. Her home, much like the woman herself, radiated simplicity and calm. The furnishings were modest, yet every piece seemed steeped in memories and history. The wooden table at the center, worn by age, bore marks left by countless conversations, shared meals, and heartfelt exchanges, a witness to the joys and sorrows of generations, and now it would bear witness to another gathering of hearts and minds. The young visitors took their seats around the table, the air heavy with anticipation. They felt as if they stood on the edge of learning something life-changing, something that would remain with them forever. Madame Laura seated herself at the head of the table, her presence both gentle and commanding. With her usual calmness, she began to speak, her voice soft yet powerful, like a gentle breeze carrying the scents of the earth and the wisdom of ages past. She shared stories of love and life, of challenges and victories, and of the lessons that had shaped her into the woman she had become. Her words transcended mere storytelling. They were windows into the essence of humanity, filled with feeling and significance. The young people listened intently, their hearts swelling with the weight of the wisdom she shared. It felt as though time had paused, each moment stretching into eternity as she spoke. Among the group was one young man whose curiosity burned brighter than the rest. Bold by nature, he never hesitated to ask difficult questions. He respected Madame Laura profoundly and believed that if anyone could answer the question that had been troubling him, it would be her. With a blend of hesitancy and bravery, he cleared his throat and asked, "Madame Laura, may I ask you something very personal?" Her eyes sparkled with curiosity as she directed her full attention to him. "Of course, my dear," she replied warmly. "Ask whatever is on your heart." The young man asked, "What is the true meaning behind the act of oral intimacy? I've heard much about it, but I want to grasp its deeper significance." A heavy silence filled the room. The other young people shifted awkwardly, uncertain of how Madame Laura would respond to such a personal question. Yet, Madame Laura's calm expression remained unchanged, her smile steady. She understood the courage it took to ask, and she met his question with compassion. Her eyes softened as she leaned forward, folding her hands on the table. "I'm glad you asked," she began, her voice filled with genuine sincerity. "This isn't an easy subject, but it holds great importance." She paused, allowing her words to sink in before continuing. "You see, the act of oral intimacy is often misinterpreted today. Many view it solely as a physical act, rooted in desire or pleasure. But, in truth, it is far more profound. When approached with love and respect, this act becomes a sacred exchange, a gesture of deep vulnerability and trust." She began to recount a story passed down through her family for generations, a tale from their ancestors who believed that all forms of intimacy were reflections of the soul's connection to another. Oral intimacy, she explained, was once seen as a way for a man to honor the divine feminine energy within his partner. It was an act of reverence, devotion, and humility. In those ancient times, men who truly understood the sacred nature of this act were highly regarded within their communities. They were seen as protectors of the feminine, as guardians of the life force that women carried. Men who embraced this act with respect, Madame Laura continued, were viewed as brave. They were not merely lovers but were regarded as wise and courageous souls who knew that real intimacy rests on mutual respect, understanding, and trust. By honoring the feminine energy that gives life to the world, these men were elevated in the eyes of their communities. Her words hung in the air like a gentle melody, filling the room with a sense of reverence. The young listeners were captivated, their minds and hearts wide open to the deeper meaning behind her story. She was speaking not merely about a physical act, but about the emotional and spiritual bond it symbolized. Madame Laura's eyes gleamed as she continued. In our ancestors' time, intimacy was not taken lightly. It was a sacred bond, a language that transcended words. The men who understood this knew their role was to honor their partners, to protect and value the feminine energy that is the source of life itself. She paused, her voice softening as she added, and in turn, the women felt deeply respected, seen, and cherished. This act allowed men to express their devotion, their readiness to put their partner's needs and comfort above their own. It was not about control or dominance, but about creating a space where love could thrive, where both partners felt truly valued. The room was still, the young people hanging on her every word, profoundly moved by the emotional depth of her story. Madame Laura's voice grew softer, almost a whisper, as she shared her final thoughts. "True intimacy," she said, "is like a dance. It's not about taking but about giving. It's about vulnerability, trust, and showing the other person they are worthy of your deepest respect and dedication. When a man understands this, when he genuinely grasps the sacredness of this act, he becomes more than just a lover. He becomes a protector of the heart, a guardian of the soul." She leaned back in her chair, her gaze sweeping over the young people gathered before her. "This is what our ancestors knew, what they understood, and it's a lesson I hope you all carry forward in your lives. Honor those you love, see them, cherish them, for true intimacy is the foundation of every deep and meaningful bond." Some of the young listeners had tears in their eyes as they sat in silence, absorbing the depth of Madame Laura's wisdom. The bold young man who had posed the question felt his heart swell. He now realized that intimacy was not just about physical closeness, but also about emotional and spiritual connection, about respect, devotion, and love in its purest form. As the evening wore on, the group gradually dispersed, each person leaving Madame Laura's home with a deeper understanding of themselves and the world around them. They had come in search of wisdom, and they had received far more than they could have imagined. And as Madame Laura sat alone in the stillness of her home, A deep sense of peace filled her heart. She knew her words had resonated with them, that the wisdom she had imparted would live on in their hearts, just as it had been passed down through generations before her. At that moment, she felt the presence of her ancestors, their spirits smiling down on her, proud that the sacred traditions of love, respect, and devotion were still honored even in the modern age. As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, yielding to the gentle embrace of night, the village seemed to breathe with renewed energy. A thick twilight mist wound through the narrow streets, wrapping the village in a blanket of serene stillness. Yet, within Madame Laura's humble cottage, the air buzzed with a different kind of intensity. What had started as a simple conversation about love and respect had evolved into a passionate discussion, leaving the room humming with curiosity, tension, and wonder. Madame Laura, with her knowing eyes and gentle yet powerful voice, had shared a story rich with raw emotion, touching each listener deeply. The story she shared was not merely about love, but, more importantly, a tale of profound respect, not just the politeness shown in words or actions, but the kind of respect rooted in deep understanding and compassion. As her story unfolded, the room became silent, her words settling in their hearts like stones dropped into still water, creating ripples through their souls. Yet, as the evening grew darker, their desire for more wisdom intensified a hunger for deeper insights into the powerful forces that connected people through love and closeness. Motivated by this longing, the young people resolved to seek guidance from the elders, those who had lived through decades filled with love, loss, and life's intricate lessons. These older generations held stories like precious jewels, each one a gem of wisdom that could answer the burning questions within them. The group walked quietly through the village, the moonlight casting long, silver shadows across the cobblestone paths, until they arrived at the humble home of Helio, a respected elder whose gentle manner and abundant wisdom made him an admired figure in the community. Known not only for his knowledge but also for his gift of storytelling, Helio's tales stayed with listeners long after they had heard them, like melodies that linger in the mind. Helio's modest home radiated warmth, with the glow of a fire flickering through the window and the scent of burning wood greeting the group as they knocked. He welcomed them in with a warm smile, his weathered face softening. His home felt cozy, filled with shelves of books and mementos from a life richly lived. A fire crackled warmly in the hearth, casting dancing shadows across the room that seemed to move in sync with the soft crackling of the flames. Slightly anxious but full of anticipation, the young people settled in, eager to hear what this wise man had to share. Sensing their curiosity, Helio paused before speaking, gazing thoughtfully into the fire, allowing his thoughts to gather. Helio's stories were not solely about love, they centered on a profound respect for one another, a respect built over time, like a structure made brick by brick from shared experiences, understanding, and affection. He explained how the men in his stories went beyond their daily routines to nurture their relationships. "It's easy to get lost in the tasks of the day," he said. "But a marriage, a partnership, it needs care, like a garden. You can't just plant it and walk away, it needs watering, nurturing, and sunlight in the same way," he explained. One must care for their bond with their partner. He spoke of silent gestures that fortified these bonds, how a look, a touch, or a smile could communicate more love than words ever could. He shared how these men understood that love wasn't something to be taken for granted but something that needed nurturing and cherishing. The young listeners, seated around the fire, were spellbound. They had never seen intimacy in this light before. They had always viewed it as something simpler, less layered, but now, through Helio's words, they saw it as a deep, sacred bond that extended beyond the physical, intertwining souls. As the night wore on and the fire dimmed, Helio offered one final piece of wisdom, his voice gentle yet full of feeling. "True understanding," he said, "is not about solving life's mysteries, it's about valuing our connections with others. It's about expressing love in ways that words alone cannot, and recognizing that these small acts of kindness, these tender moments, are what make life beautiful." The room was quiet as he finished, the only sound the gentle crackling of the fire. The young people sat in silent reflection, their hearts full of the wisdom they had received. They realized they had come seeking answers but had found something far greater, a deeper understanding of love, respect, and intimacy that would stay with them forever. As they left Helios' home that evening, their hearts filled with reverence, gratitude, and a newfound comprehension, they walked back through the village, stars glimmering overhead. They knew they had been changed by the lessons of love, respect, and dedication passed down across generations. Under the gentle, silver light of the moon, the young people departed from Helios' home, their spirits lifted and minds brimming with fresh insights. What they had absorbed that evening was more than just a lesson, it was an understanding of how to connect deeply with others. As the wisdom spread like ripples on a quiet pond, it reached every corner of the village. What began as a private conversation in the dim rooms of Helio and Madame Laura had now sparked a cultural shift, transforming how love and relationships were perceived by the entire community. The younger generation, once captivated by the fleeting thrills of intimacy, passion, excitement, and transient moments, now began to embrace a deeper meaning. They recognized that love wasn't merely about what appeared on the surface, but about the emotional and spiritual ties that held people together, like roots supporting two lives through the toughest times. Marriage, once seen as a societal obligation or a convenient arrangement, was now understood as a sacred bond grounded in respect, empathy, and a profound emotional connection. Over time, this wisdom showed its impact in every household. The village women, especially, sensed a notable change in how they were treated. No longer taken for granted in their roles as wives and mothers, they felt valued and appreciated in ways that touched their souls. Moved by the wisdom of Helio and Madame Laura, their partners began expressing their love, not merely through expected gestures, but through genuine acts that made them feel truly valued. A warm smile over breakfast, a gentle touch at unexpected moments, these small actions showed affection in ways they had never imagined. The elders' guidance led them to discover new depths in their relationships, teaching them that love is a continuous journey, one that only becomes richer and more meaningful with time. They started to see the profound power in even the simplest acts of love, a kind word, shared laughter, or the gentle wiping of a tear, moments that left an unforgettable mark on their hearts. Helio and Madame Laura quietly observed this transformation with deep joy. They watched as their village began to change before their eyes, realizing the shift was not just in how people treated one another, but in how they perceived love itself. The lessons shared with the younger generation had not only been listened to, but had woven themselves into the village's daily life. Love was no longer just a word, an idea, or a fleeting feeling. It had become a way of life, something sacred, to be treasured and nurtured each day. The greatest joy for Helio and Madame Laura did not come from witnessing grand displays of affection or hearing declarations of love shouted from rooftops. Instead, it was the small, tender moments that brought them the most happiness, the quiet exchanges between a husband and wife, the gentle support one partner offered to the other in challenging times, the deep understanding that seemed to pass between two people without a single word spoken. They realized, as they had always known, that the real strength of love resided in these small gestures. It was not found in flowers, gifts, or grand gestures, but in the smallest acts of care, kindness, and thoughtfulness. The village blossomed into a place of warmth, compassion, and unity, where love was no longer spoken of in hushed tones or saved for special occasions. It had become something every couple, every family, and each individual lived and breathed daily. The wisdom of the elders had become the guiding light for the community, showing that the most beautiful love stories were not those filled with drama or spectacle, but those built on trust, respect, and everyday kindness. Helio and Madame Laura, their hearts full, continued to pass on their teachings to younger generations, knowing that as long as love was valued in its truest form, the village would remain a place of peace, unity, and resilience. The legacy of their teachings would endure, carried in the hearts of those who understood that love, at its core, is not about what we receive, but about what we give freely, selflessly, and with an open heart. As we reach the conclusion of this beautiful tale of love, unity, and transformation, we invite you to reflect on the wisdom shared here. What insights have resonated with you? What is one thing that you intend to carry into your own life, whether in your relationships or in how you show love and care to those around you? We'd love to hear from you, so please share your thoughts in the comments below. If this video was meaningful to you, consider supporting us by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel. Your engagement helps us continue to bring you insightful content. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to hearing how these teachings have touched your life.